Hello there, and welcome to the Alberta Update. I am your host, Bruce McAllister. There is only one story to talk about at the top of this broadcast. Let's bring in Premier Danielle Smith now to chat about what most of the country is talking about. Premier, first, good day. How are
Hi,
you?
Bruce.
You feeling good?
I'm feeling very good. Feeling almost a sense of relief. And as we talk through this agreement, you'll understand why.
I bet. And let's give people some insight. How long your team has been working on. Well, okay, let me set it up properly. A memorandum of understanding between you, the province of Alberta, Prime Minister Carney, the federal Liberal government. People thought that would never happen, to get us a new pipeline, to diversify our trading partners and get our bitumen to the West Coast. I'm going to ask you all about that specifically, but this took a long time to get to this point. So talk to us about that, and I guess how thrilled you are.
Well, I mean, my fight began 3 years ago in trying to find some way of getting the federal government to meet us in some reasonable ground. You may remember that we produced our emissions reduction and energy development plan in April of 2023. And the idea behind that was, let's not stifle production. Let's increase production. Let's work on emissions over a long enough period of time that technology has time to develop. And we've got time to be able to do this without having to shut in any of our production. I've been trying to get the federal Liberals to agree to that for 3 years. There was no movement whatsoever. And in fact, it kept getting worse and worse and worse under Justin Trudeau, with people like Stephen Guilbeault leading the charge as environment minister. And so I can understand a lot of people got very frustrated. They didn't think that we'd be able to get any kind of deal. And then, as it happens, after a year of our shaky relationship with the U.S. under Donald Trump, I think that the world has changed, and I think Canadians have changed. And now there's a real appetite for us to get our product to market, for us to focus on energy that is reliable and affordable, and that means developing our resources, and Alberta's at the heart of that.
Well, look, kudos to you and your entire team. I know you had, I think, Larry Kallmeyer, Rob Anderson, Liam Stone, Ministers Sonny and Nixon with you at the negotiating table. Look, a lot of people are going to say, okay, there's no pipeline yet. We're not there. Doesn't mean anything. I want to ask you about that. But first, I want to ask you about what you can't contradict, and that is the fact you managed to get the federal government to get rid of the bad laws that you've been asking them to, the emissions cap, the clean electricity regulations. What a wonderful win.
It really is. I mean, you have to remember the extent that we went to try to persuade the rest of the country about how damaging these laws were. We did a full national advertising campaign against the emissions cap. We did a full national advertising campaign about the net zero power regs. I went to a point where we brought through a sovereignty a motion under the Alberta Sovereignty Within a United Canada Act, saying if we can't get a deal on removing the clean electricity regs, we are going to have to just start building our natural gas power plants. And if it means going to jail in 2035, I guess, go ahead, come and get me. That's the kind of approach that Scott Moe had to take. That's how I think out of touch the federal Liberals were under Trudeau with understanding just how important it was for us to develop these resources. So we did a lot of work on paving the way and making the public case about why those two laws in particular were so damaging. And I'm happy to say that's one of the centerpieces of this MOU, is that they will not implement the emissions cap, which we know would have been a production cap, which would have caused our production to be shut in. And they have done an immediate suspension of the clean electricity regs, which allows for us to attract more natural gas development for our power grid, as well as be able to meet the growing demand for AI data centers. So those two things were really important for us to restore investor confidence. And one of the things that I think a lot of people don't understand about how pipelines get built is that pipeline companies go out to the market and they say to producers, hey, do you want to reserve some space on this line? Well, if you are facing an emissions cap and a production cap and having to shut in your production, you're not going to say yes to that. So that was a necessary precondition for us to have any proponent come forward to build more pipeline space.
Premier, I was at the Chamber luncheon where the Prime Minister spoke shortly after you did your press conference on Thursday. I have never heard and seen reaction like that from Calgary's business community. To your point, investment will be coming. Now, critics will say, what about BC? Premier Eby doesn't agree with you. First Nations, I know you had a lot of them at your announcement, but there's some opposition there. So how do you address that?
would say you're never going to get 100% consensus. You won't get it in a province, you won't get it in a political party, you won't get it among First Nations. But we are working on winning hearts and minds one by one. And when I saw actually an Angus Reid poll that came out this week as well, pretty good timing, shows that the majority of all Canadians, including those in British Columbia and in Quebec, support the development of a pipeline to the BC coast. And I think that is because there is a real understanding that having only one trading partner has put us in a very precarious position as a nation. We've had a conversation for the last year. How can we trade more with each other? How can we open up new export markets? And one of the biggest ways you can do that is to have a product that is highly valued, that is available for delivery 24/7, 365 days a year. And that is what an oil pipeline offers. It can pave the way to open up those new markets, pave the way for an expansion of port infrastructure that will allow for all goods of all variety to be exported to those new markets. That's the case that I've been making, and it seems to me that most Canadians agree. So now the hard work begins. We know that, and one of the things that I agreed with the Prime Minister is there does need to be Indigenous ownership. We, of course, have created the Alberta Indigenous Opportunities Corporation as a mechanism to underwrite some of that ownership. BC has a similar approach, as does Ottawa. And we think that as we start assembling the group of individuals and nations that are going to be those equity partners, will identify the route. And I think we're going to be able to find a private sector proponent who will build it. That's what we're aiming for, to get it on the major projects list.
You bet. Hey, Premier, I don't know if you heard today, Stephen Buffalo from the Alberta Indigenous Opportunities Corporation, with a scream of approval while the Prime Minister was speaking upstairs at McDougall. I think he scared him. He was so happy when he did that. I wish I had it on video to share, but we don't. Okay, what about pathways? That's part of the deal. Tell us about that and what Albertans need to know.
You have to remember a number of years ago that the group of companies that are our largest oil sands operators, they got together and said that the way that they think that they're going to have a greater share of a growing market in the future is to have a low carbon barrel, lower emissions. And so they crafted a proposal to reach a carbon neutral target by 2050 by bringing in carbon capture, utilization, and storage, by bringing in interties so that we can leverage hydroelectric power or even nuclear, as well as direct air capture. But the thing is, those kinds of proposals take time to implement. And so that's one of the things that we were saying is that our energy industry is very keen to try to find a way to reduce emissions, but they need to make money now off current production so that they can invest in those kinds of projects. And I think we got a breakthrough with the Prime Minister. So the way the proposal is written is, of the 9 bad laws, 7 of them are addressed in this MOU. And we mentioned a couple of the most important ones with the emissions cap and the net zero power regs. But then a bitumen pipeline and the pathways carbon sequestration projects will proceed at the same pace. So one is dependent on the other. That we need the approval for the bitumen pipeline to do pathways, and pathways needs to go ahead in order to get the bitumen pipeline approval. So those will be parallel tracks that we'll be doing over the course of the next year. And I think that allows for us to make the case to the Asian markets and the European markets that are looking for a lower emissions product, that Canada is going to be their partner in that.
To that point, the last question. Do you now start looking for proponents? Do you now start to dot the I's and cross the T's about how to move forward? What is next for the government?
Our next step, we already have all of the potential proponents at the table. They've been very generous with offering up expertise on pipeline development. We've got, I think, well over 100 years of pipeline expertise sitting around the table, giving us advice. Those who have built pipelines in rough terrain, those have even built pipelines to the BC coast. And we're in the process of doing the technical analysis of what the optimal route would be, what the potential costing would be. We're hoping to be able to use some AI to assist us in finding that route so that we're avoiding some environmentally sensitive areas, and that we're also understanding who we need to consult with and bring in as equity partners from First Nations. So that's going to be a methodical process. It shouldn't take too long. Our aim is to have not is to have that into the major projects office for consideration in July of next year. And I believe once we get through those phases, once we get that project on the major project list, that's when I think we'll have enough certainty in the industry that it's going to go ahead, that they're prepared to take the risk of beginning to build the project. The biggest risk that industry has right now is the risk that they will spend billions of dollars and nothing will get built. And so this is why we're taking a little bit of a leap of faith and a little bit of trust in the process to try to see if we can do it a different way. And if it needs us to assist on getting it to that point before we can do the handoff, we're prepared to do that.
Well, shame on anybody who doubts you after seeing you with the Prime Minister get this far. Good luck going forward, Premier. Thanks for everything, and we'll chat with you soon.
Thanks, Bruce.
Here's our Premier, Danielle Smith, on the Alberta Update. Well, the province has been working to provide better and more accessible health care, and the lady responsible for that has been busy, and that is Minister Adriana LaGrange, the Minister for Primary and Preventative Health Services. Good day, Minister. Thanks for joining us today.
Nice to be here, Bruce.
Let's start with Bill 11. Big announcement this week, and again, designed to improve healthcare and accessibility for Albertans.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Bill 11 really is the culmination of 2 years. When I first came into office in June of 2023, we started engaging with Albertans right across the province. We've had over 150 in-person meetings and town halls, and everyone from healthcare workers to everyday Albertans. And over again, I heard our system's not working. It doesn't make sense where so many of us are not able to get our surgeries in clinically approved times. And so one of the key areas of Bill 11 is talking about dual practice. Right now in Alberta, a physician can actually practice under publicly, or they can practice privately, and it takes roughly about 18 months to go between those two areas. What we are proposing under Bill 11 is a flexible participating physician. This would be a mostly surgeons, specialists that would then be able to toggle back and forth. People are frustrated with the long wait times, even though we've been able to go from roughly about 45% of our surgeries in clinically approved times to closer to 70% in clinically approved times. So many people still are not having their surgeries done in clinically approved times. And sometimes they get so frustrated that they fly to other provinces or to other countries. Sometimes they're on the same flight as their physician that's leaving Alberta to go do those surgeries in other provinces and other countries. And so we want to put an end to that. We want to make sure that those services are being provided right here in Alberta. And Bill 11 helps us get there.
You bet. Make that make sense. It's crazy. So good for you for addressing it. Listen, critics right away say, oh boy, US style health system, we don't want this. Go ahead and take that one on. And I'm sure you've been asked about it this week.
Well, it's not US styled. In fact, it's more European styled, because when we look at top performing jurisdictions that have universal health care, publicly funded universal health care, they also have a private or nonprofit stream, which, I can, name off so many countries from Germany, Netherlands, Denmark, Switzerland, Sweden, Australia, New Zealand, many of our high performing countries, and I can also say provinces in Alberta, Quebec, and New Brunswick both offer dual practice. They offer it a little bit differently, but they do offer it. And so why would we not look to these high performing jurisdictions to pattern what we want to do here in Alberta? Albertans deserve excellent health care, and we can provide it to them. We just have to be bold, and we also have to be creative, because ours will actually take it a step above what Quebec and New Brunswick are doing.
Well, good for you. The feedback is coming in. I'll tell you, stakeholders are happy. I know people waiting on lists are saying good for you in Alberta for doing this, and good for the minister. One thing I read about this week that I want to ask you about,
Sure.
Anytime there's a headline in healthcare boy, the media would love to focus on, doctor shortages and not enough doctors. Albertans struggling to get doctors. What I don't hear them talking about a lot is the fact that your government, your ministry, and the healthcare system have recruited more doctors to this province than anywhere else in Canada. I forget the numbers, but can you speak to some of that and the people that are moving here to practice healthcare?
Happy to speak to that. And it is a good news story. And perhaps that's why they don't want to report on it, because it is such a good news story. But I do want all Albertans to know that we have gone from roughly about 10,600 physicians registered to practice in the province. We are now at 12,769 as of the end of October, and we have many more coming. And how that has happened is the work that we've done with the College of Physicians and Surgeons to expand who can sponsor an international medical graduate. Also, the work that we've done on the accelerator program. And we are seeing a really good mix of both family physicians and specialists. We have now over 600 doctors in the province that are taking on new patients. These are family physicians that are taking on new patients. That's a good news story. When I first started in June of 2023, it was a handful. And on a daily basis, I was getting emails and phone calls saying, I can't get a family doctor. I am not hearing that. My colleagues are not hearing that. Are there still some hot spots? Absolutely. But we're addressing them. We have seen more nurses than ever. We've added more nurses to the province than has ever existed before in our province. That's an additional 13,000 nurses. That's RNs, LPNs, and psych nurses that have come to our province or have come out of our post-secondaries and are being hired into our facilities. The other piece that I can say is we've had a particular focus on rural remote, and we have medical residents. So I was able to sign a new agreement with the Medical Residents Association. We were actually funding them to the least amount in all of Canada. We are now very competitive, and we also have a bursary program. If they choose to work in rural remote locations for a return of service of 3 years, they can opt into this bursary program, and we have 106 medical residents that have agreed to serve our rural remote locations, and I can see that number expanding further, and we're seeing numbers increasing in paramedics and all of the other disciplines. So very happy to see those numbers. Of course, we have a growing population, so I'm cautiously optimistic we're going to be able to keep up with that growing population and make sure that we have the workforce that we need here in Alberta.
I am so glad I asked you that question. Great news. I'm glad we got it out there. Minister, thank you for your work. Thanks for this, and we'll see you again.
My pleasure. Thanks so much.
Well, let's bring in another minister for a good news announcement. There is our infrastructure minister, Martin Long, who made a heck of a splash this week. Good day, Minister.
Good day, Bruce. Thanks for having me.
Hey, a lot of people have been waiting for news on the Stollery Hospital, and you announced something this week. A standalone site has been determined. Tell us more.
Well, yeah, thanks, Bruce. What an honor to be a part of such an incredible announcement, a long-awaited announcement, I would say. We have actually chosen a large site to build a new standalone Stollery Children's Hospital. The site's actually going to be located on the University of Alberta's South Campus in Edmonton. It's at the northeast corner of 122nd Street and 51st Avenue.
So what about next steps, Minister? And I'll kind of ask you a two-parter. I mean, maybe I'll pull at your heartstrings a little bit too. Look, a children's hospital is just so precious. I mean, to be able to provide that care to kids. I know it means a lot to you. So how about that and how we move forward?
Yeah. Oh man, the current Stollery, Bruce, it actually supports more than 300,000 children a year currently, and at the announcement, I was actually joined by Jody Richardson. She's the mom of child Emmy Richardson, Emmy has received care at the Stollery over the years. And she and her mom both stressed the importance of how having a standalone Stollery would provide a safer atmosphere where children who are already having, these medical crises can be in rooms with kids and instead of, sharing them with adults. And it's such an important announcement for families and children and for our province moving forward.
You bet. Listen, we're all parents, and obviously it's the last place we want to be with our kids. But when you have to be, isn't it nice to be able to go to the Stollery, the Alberta Children's Hospital in Calgary? These options. Obviously, the care is tremendous as well. Hey, critics are going to say, "Where's the money for this? You don't have the money for this." We know the fiscal update came out this week as well. So, what would you say to them?
Well, yeah, obviously there will be critics of all good news. That's sort of part of the environment we live in. But the reality is, we have a step by step process, similar to any project that you're going to do on a personal level. You have to plan something before you know how much it's going to cost, and we do our diligence. And so, with this site selection now, we are able to move to the next step, which will be the functional programming planning side of the things, what the hospital will actually need. And then from there, the next step will be based on what the hospital needs. How do we design the hospital to incorporate all of the things the hospital needs? And then from there, we move to construction. So once we have that design complete, that's how we will know how much the full construction will cost. And that's when we will look at that big, massive bundle of money that everyone's anticipating, at some point learning what that value will be.
All right, listen, we'll bring you on to update us on that as it goes forward. I want to ask you about one more thing before we let you go. You're the man on the hot seat when it comes to building schools. Obviously, Demetrius Nicolaitis is as well our education minister. But look, we need them yesterday. How is the big school build going? Can you update us?
It's going full throttle, Bruce. We are very fortunate. Historically, what the process has been is after you get into the planning stage of a school, you would have to wait until the next budget cycle to get design funding. And then after you get the design done, you would have to wait till the next budget cycle to get construction funding. And so we've actually fast-tracked projects now where you can actually go from one to the next, all within one budget year if you are ready for those different stages. This year, we have, it's 43 different school projects that are ongoing right now. $655 million in 2024-25 was allotted. $89 million in 25-26. We are pushing these as fast as we can, and thankfully our construction partners are coming to the table and just getting to work.
Yep, thankful for that help as well. Listen, great news this week on the Stollery, and good to hear the update on the schools. Thanks for this. Thanks for the work you do. We'll see you again.
Thanks, Bruce. Take care.
There is our Infrastructure Minister, Marty Long, joining us on the Alberta Update. Well, the Finance Minister, Nate Horner, delivering the Q2 fiscal update this week to Albertans. Not tremendously good news, a $6.5 billion deficit. Now, Minister Horner pointing out that's in large part due to low oil prices. Of course, they have been below $60 a barrel and hovering around $60 a barrel for a long time. The good news, I suppose, the Heritage Fund, this is very good news, at $31.5 billion now, and that's nearly double the $16 billion since when the UCP took over government in 2019. Here is our Finance Minister, Nate Horner, with more on his mandate letter from the Premier.
Albertans have been clear. They expect their government to be disciplined, focused, and accountable with every taxpayer dollar. And that's exactly what we're doing in Treasury Board and Finance. Premier Daniel Smith has tasked me with protecting Alberta's strong fiscal position, keeping spending in check, growing our savings, and ensuring every dollar government spends delivers value for Albertans. As President of Treasury Board and Minister of Finance, my job is to keep Alberta's finances strong and our future secure. That means controlled budgets, reasonable spending, and keeping Alberta's net debt the lowest in the country. We've already delivered the lowest personal income tax rate in Canada, and we're building on that success, growing the Heritage Savings Trust Fund, strengthening ATB, and making sure our programs and grants support what matters most to Albertans. We're also cutting red tape, modernizing insurance and procurement systems, and creating the right conditions for investment in energy, agriculture, and emerging sectors like AI and data centers. This mandate is about responsibility, opportunity, and trust. The trust Albertans place in us to protect their prosperity and prepare for the future. We're going to keep that trust by doing what Alberta always has done best, working hard, living within our means, and building a province that's strong, free, and full of opportunity for the next generation.
There is our Finance Minister, Nate Horner, with us on the Alberta Update. Well, one more interview to do. Let's check in with the Minister of Tourism and Sport, and that is Andrew Boychenko joining us. Hello, Minister Boychenko.
Hello, Bruce. How are you doing today?
Listen, this is a fabulous day. We've had good news from everybody we've talked to. That's the Premier, that's the Health Minister, the Infrastructure Minister, and now you. So I expect you to keep this train rolling, all right? And that's going to lead me into my first question. How are things going in Alberta tourism? Like I'm hearing great news. I think there was a study came out or something that said we're tops in the country. What can you tell us?
Well, we have good news for you, Bruce, today. In generally, Alberta is doing amazing in tourism sector because overall in the world, tourism actually is the fastest growing sector in the world. And in Canada, Alberta is actually 4 times of Canada's average growth on the tourism. Last year, 24, we reached $14.4 billion in visitor spending. And that actually number there is 4 times of Canada's average. And in Alberta here, a lot of folks maybe don't know that, but tourism is the 4th largest export. Because every time when we have tourists come to our province and spend their money, that actually considered to be an export. So being the 4th largest export in the province is an amazing title to have. And overall, we are the only province in Canada that saw the increase of U.S. visitors to Canada. So we have good news all across the portfolio.
All right. Listen, good news, as you say, on the export. Let's talk about the what is it? The all see. I got to put my glasses on. Sometimes I can't. I can't see without them. You and I were talking about the last time we spoke about was it the All Seasons Resort Act and when those regulations were going to come forward. I know there's a difference between ours and what happens in BC. It's a benefit for Albertans. Tell us more about that, Minister.
Well, I want to start with this. We have an absolutely ambitious goal to reach our tourism industry spending to $25 billion by 2035. And as I said, we are sitting at about $14.4 billion, and we're looking to grow that. So with our new All-Season Resort Act, I think we're going to get there, or at least it's going to be one of the sector that can help us to get there. And to give you a perspective, in BC, we have 13 all-season resorts on provincial lands. In Alberta, we have 0 all-season resorts on provincial lands. So with announcement last year, and then our regulations are going to come out shortly here, we are looking to increase our projection for next 10 years is, I'm going to read it from my quotes here. So next 10 years, we're looking to project $4 billion increase in tourism spending, $3.6 billion in additional GDP growth, and 24,000 new jobs equivalent. So we're looking to see our all-season resort take us to the next level where we can grow our tourism spending to $25 billion, our ambitious goal that we have.
Listen, that's great news. It wouldn't be a complete interview with the tourism and sport minister if I didn't ask you something about hockey. I'm not going to talk about the Calgary Flames or the Edmonton Oilers. Neither one of those teams are doing that well right now. However, you did have some good news on the hockey front announced recently.
Absolutely. You know what? My portfolio consists of the good news announcements every time. So there's another announcement that we want to actually share is that we are actually going to be hosting 2027 IIHF Junior Championship. And the projections are absolutely amazing on that as well. And again, I'll read from my notes here. We're looking to actually have 220,000 visitors to our region during these competitions. We're looking to have $50 million in economic activity in Alberta, and as well as 100 million views worldwide through the broadcast channels. Okay, in addition to that, we're creating 140 jobs directly linked to the event. So again, absolutely amazing news. And the amount of games we're going to be equally splitting between Edmonton and Red Deer. We're going to have about 17 games in Edmonton and 14 competition games in Red Deer. And if I can have maybe a second to tell our viewers what we have in Red Deer, because this summer I actually had an opportunity to visit Red Deer and their activities, outdoor activities. And I want to just name a few here for those who actually haven't been to Red Deer or is not aware. We're going to have in Red Deer a whole bunch of options, and I'm going to name them Canyon Ski Hill, Diani Distillery that I actually visited this summer, and it's going to be part of our whiskey trail in Alberta that we're actually going to be creating here with Minister Nally. As well, for the winter sports activity, we're going to have lake skating, ski hills, snow tubing, snowshoeing, and ice fishing. And I say snowshoeing with a little bit of excitement because we have in Alberta here, every third international traveler is actually here for some Indigenous experience. So snowshoeing is one of that experience that we can offer. And it's a big part of our Indigenous tourism. And besides that, we have a lot of winter festivals as well. So December 26th to January 5th, we're going to have a lot of activities going on in our province.
So good, Minister. There's a lot going on, and like you said at the top of the interview, you didn't spoil it. It was continued positive news. So thank you for talking to us today. We appreciate your time, and keep up the good work.
Bruce, it's always nice to see you. It's always good to have a conversation with you and share all our good news in the Ministry of Tourism and Sport. Thank you for having us tonight.
There is Andrew Boychenko, the Minister of Tourism and Sport. Do you get the sense he's happy with his ministry and the work they're doing? Just get that suspicion in talking to him. Great news. Listen, what a show it's been today. Thank you for being with us as we bring you the news, obviously, on the Memorandum of Understanding between Alberta and the federal government, which will hopefully see a pipeline built in Alberta to the BC coast, and the news about the emissions cap being removed, the clean electricity regulations being gone. Some great news on the healthcare front and infrastructure too, and ending it with Minister Boychenko. So that is a look at what's happening in your province, the Alberta Update with your Alberta government this week. We do this every week. The legislature is sitting, which means we will be back again next week. You can find us on all of the socials, on YouTube and on Rumble. Please like and share. Thanks for giving us some of your time, and we will see you again next week.